All right, you guys, we're going to get started. I am Dr. Carrie Edison Watkins, and I am here to welcome you guys to the Fall 2018 Hyatt Distinguished Leadership Lecture. The reason that I am introducing is I am part of the Global Engineering Leadership minor family. I'm the Frederick Law Olmsted professor, and I also lead a course for GELM in sustainable transportation abroad. In that class, we actually go to the Netherlands. There's a few people smiling at me. I don't see anyone who actually went with me on the class in the room, but it's coming up again. And part of that class actually is that we do some interesting things with taking professionals with us and such. And we were fortunate enough to have Arcadis actually, as a Dutch company, donate some funds to the course. And so I think it's wonderful that we happen to have the guest speaker who you're going to hear more about with us today. First, let me talk a little bit about the Hyatt Distinguished Leadership Series, though. The idea of this series is to tap into the school's broad alumni base to bring distinguished leaders to campus each fall and spring, so we have it twice a year for those of you who aren't aware. And they share their wisdom and insights with our community so that you can hear more than just from professors such as myself about what's happening in the world, and in addition to that, hear from people who can really serve in a mentorship role for our students. This series was made possible by Kenneth Hyatt, who did his bachelor's in 1962 and master's in 1966 at Georgia Tech, and we are very grateful to him for endowing this series. We're also grateful to MBP for sponsoring the dinner that will occur tonight that several students are invited to join us at. So now I'm going to turn things over to Kelsey Eichbauer, who's going to introduce our distinguished speaker. Kelsey is here because she was the first student to graduate with the Global Engineering Leadership minor, and she graduated in December 2016 with her bachelor's in environmental engineering, and she's currently working as a water resources engineer at Arcadis. So we know that Mr. Selman is a very intelligent man because not only does he do a great job leading the division there, but he's smart enough to hire Georgia Tech grads to help him do it. Kelsey.
Hi, everyone. As Dr. Watkins said, my name is Kelsey Eichbauer, and I've had the privilege of working at Arcadis with Wassim for the past couple years. It was actually his invitation that convinced me to join Arcadis when I graduated. So I'm thankful to him for his leadership, and it's an honor to be able to introduce him to you all today. I think the topic of today's lecture, including people in all equations, is a fitting topic for Wassim. In the Atlanta office, we hear him talking a lot about how people are our greatest asset and how our business thrives when we put people as our top priority. So I've seen him put this into practice in the way that he interacts with and leads our staff in Atlanta. Dr. Wassim Selman completed his Bachelor, Master of Science, and Doctor of Philosophy degrees from Georgia Tech in the 1980s. He has more than 30 years of professional experience in transportation system planning, multimodal corridor studies, and congestion and mobility management. He joined Arcadis in 1996 and has held key leadership positions with the firm, including Director of Infrastructure Technical Knowledge and Innovation, Director of Federal Programs, and Global Leader for Smart Infrastructure Solutions. Wassim has managed large multidiscipline operations and served as principal in charge for diverse multi-million-dollar infrastructure projects and programs. At Arcadis, Wassim led the successful planning and implementation of several growth strategy initiatives in a variety of market sectors. His operation leadership has twice resulted in high organic growth and a doubling of operating margin. He has been president of the Arcadis North America Infrastructure Business Line since 2010, leading all of Arcadis infrastructure business, including program management, planning, design, and construction management of transportation and building infrastructure. He is a past president of the Institute of Transportation Engineers Georgia section, serves on the Construction Industry Roundtable's Board of Directors, and is an external advisory board member of the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Georgia Tech. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Wassim Selman.
You did good, Kelsey. I was worried. I was worried about what you might say, not about you, about me. So I'm very privileged to be here today. It's an honor to be invited to be the speaker today, especially considering the names of the other speakers that have been here before me. I know several of them, and I'm privileged to be doing this today. I was a student here for too long. I remember this room. I remember this room very well. I remember all of the rooms in this building very well. And it's interesting to hear me being referred to as distinguished. I never felt distinguished being here as a student. It was, it was good, bad, and ugly times. But at the end, it's a good story. You should be proud of yourselves being students here at Georgia Tech. It is much harder now, I am sure, than it used to be when I was here. You're ranked number 2 and number 5 and number 4 in civil and environmental engineering. So that's a great honor. We did not have that when I was here, and you don't get ranked number 2 and number 4 easily, and it takes a lot of effort, a lot of success for a school to get to that level of ranking. And so you should be proud of the opportunity that you have to be students here. And I believe that for most of you, you will be more successful in your career than you think that you will be. This is something important to remember, is that you will be more successful than you think you will be, because I know I was. I never thought that I would be called distinguished. So that's a great success. What I want to do today is talk to you about how you include people in all of your equations, why that is important. I will do it from my perspective, from the context of my experience, and how I realized that including people in all of your equations is key to your success. Kelsey probably doesn't know this. I wanted to be an actor. And when I came to Georgia Tech, I joined the School of Civil Engineering to become an engineer because I was good in math. But my passion was to be an actor, and I actually went to Drama Tech, and I auditioned, and I got a role, and I started preparing. But I was just so stressed about making it in school that I quit acting and focused on engineering. And also part of the reason I wanted to get a PhD is to become a professor, because being a professor, it's a little bit like acting, where you have an audience, you have some messages, and you have an audience, and maybe I can get it out of my system that way. And so, going through school, and then when I started working, I realized soon after I started working that my passion for acting, and I'll tell you the relationship between acting and people, and it's a very strong relationship, can be very valuable to me in my career. Because the first thing an actor does is understand the person that they will be in that role. If you are going to be taking the role of a bartender, you will go up and watch bartenders. Al Pacino, when he did Scent of a Woman, he was blind. I bet you he probably spent a lot of time watching blind people. And so acting, really, people think of it as, well, you're pretending, but that's not true. The biggest thing about being an actor is being able to actually understand, put yourself in the other people's shoes, and understand why they behave the way that they behave. And so I realized shortly after I started working that having this passion for people will be very helpful to me in my career. So the message to you here today is that your success in the future will depend not only on the technical skills that you will learn here as a student at Georgia Tech, but will also depend on your other passions. Some of you probably wanted to be musicians. How many people here wanted to have an interest in art? Any other interests other than engineering and art? Sports. And so think about those interests and the passions that you have in those other areas, and think about the times where you actually think that, maybe I shouldn't be here becoming an engineer. Maybe I should follow my passion. And my message to you is you can do both. Because your passions, no matter what they are outside of the technical arena, will be very helpful to you, because that's who you are, and those are the passions that are going to result in the strengths that you will have as a person and as a professional. You all are here at the same time. You are going to get the same degree within the same time frame. You're all about the same age. But what you do after here will determine your success. And it's a wide variety of possibilities. Now, I'm going to mention the possibilities just to show you that it could be actually anything, right? So you could end up being homeless and living under a bridge. It's a possibility. Hopefully, it's never happened. It'll never happen, but it's always a possibility. You could be the person that's designed the bridge. Okay, you could be the owner of the construction company that has built the bridge, or the engineering company that's designed the bridge. You could also be a president. I know the president of Panama, the country, is a Georgia Tech graduate. Also, the chairman of the Panama Canal is also a Georgia Tech graduate. So you can actually graduate from Georgia Tech and become a president if that's what your passion is all about, if you have passion in politics. But regardless of what you do, being able to understand and work with people will be key to your success. And your technical expertise is also going to be very crucial to you being able to do so, because at Georgia Tech, in order for you to actually be able to get into Georgia Tech and make it through the program and graduate, you have a lot of great qualities. You are all hardworking students. You have a lot of ambitions. I am sure you manage your time well, otherwise there's no way you can keep up, especially during the finals. You are well organized, and you have passion for excellence. So all of these qualities will help you quite a bit in your career, and will help you also do the same in terms of learning the people side of our business to be able to be successful. And that's really the reason I wanted to title this presentation, including people in all of your equations. And I remember when I was a student here, there was a professor who has had the greatest impact on me as a professional and on me as a transportation consultant. And that's Dr. Peter P. Parsonson. Probably know Dr. P. He's had the greatest influence on me as a professional. He's actually the reason I chose transportation. I wanted to go into structures. I actually had been accepted to go to graduate school in structures, and then I took the only undergraduate class in transportation that Dr. P taught. And I was fascinated with transportation, and the reason, at least one of the reasons I was fascinated with transportation is because of the way Dr. Parsonson taught the class. He did not have a textbook that he used. He used always the latest material, whether it was news articles, papers that are published, stories that we heard about, or specific sites around the Atlanta area where there are specific transportation or traffic issues that we can learn from. And he was so very effective at teaching us that. And one of the things that he taught us that resonates with me today a lot and relates to what we all will have to do in our careers. He stressed quite a bit on the relationship between the highway, the driver, and the car. He always talked about how you have to create the right balance between the highway that you're driving on, the vehicle itself, the vehicle characteristics, and the driver characteristics, the psychology of the drivers. And that in order to create a very effective and safe transportation system, you have to really develop and deliver that balance between the driver, the vehicle, and the highway system. And that is so true today, because right now we talk about autonomous and connected vehicles, so the technology in the cars has advanced quite a bit. The highway system with all of the latest technologies that are put in place to help us navigate the streets and highways in a safe manner, and also we still have the driver. And that balance is now being challenged because the technology in the car has advanced a lot. People are still the same, but instead of following along like they're supposed to, they're being distracted, they're not paying attention. And so we have a part of the challenge that we have right now in mobility and smart mobility is being careful not to lose that balance. So I use that as an example to highlight the importance of including people in all of your equations, the importance of balancing the highway with the car technology as well as with the drivers. Now, if you think about those connections and those relationships that exist when you drive a car, it's the same relationships that exist at a broader scale. So if you extrapolate to the entire environment, you have the natural and built environment, and then you have to understand the connections that exist there. Also, you have to understand the connection between the natural built environment with the human environment around it. I was just reading this morning the write-up on one of the strategic elements for the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering related to smart cities, and there is a mention there about the connection between the environment, the natural and built environment. And in order for us, again, in society, on this earth, to have sustainable living, we have to understand the connections between the human element, the neighborhoods, the people that are out there in this natural and built environment. Now, you are at a very critical situation here where you have a lot of responsibilities in that area because you understand the natural and built environment. You're getting a great education related to that here at Georgia Tech. And you will need to consider the third part here of the puzzle, and that is the human element. So when I talk about people, and including people in all of your equations, I'm not necessarily only talking about just individuals. I'm talking about people as individuals and as groups. So it could be one person, it could be a group of people, it could be a community, it could be a city, it could be our global humanity. It's all people at different levels. I want to give you 3 examples where I was involved on very complex, very large projects, and in my conversations with our clients, they would mention the importance of people. So I was speaking with a client we have in Los Angeles, where we are managing the construction of a 2-mile tunnel under downtown LA. So this is a very complex project using huge boring machine to tunnel under downtown LA 2 miles. And I was speaking with the client and wanted to know from the client early on in the project, what is the biggest challenge that if we overcome, we would have a successful project. And as much as I am aware of the importance of people and the successful delivery of projects, I was thinking technical. And he said public relations. He said, if we overcome the public relations challenge, we will have a successful project. Another example, I was talking to somebody who's in charge of a large agency that's responsible for water and power. And we're talking about some of the newest technologies out there to deliver safe water, and also related to energy and alternative forms of energy. And I asked him about some of the things that they were doing and what are some of their biggest challenges. And he said knowing how to do things technically is important, but it's not the only important thing. He says being able to explain that to the public and being able to get the public to support what you're doing on the technical side, that is the key to success. And then the third example, I was meeting with a client who was hiring us to develop a comprehensive transportation plan for the region. And at the kickoff meeting, I asked the question. I asked him, what is it that you're looking for in terms of a final deliverable? So we will have a transportation plan. What are you really looking for? How would you qualify the final product, the deliverable? He said, I want a brochure, a marketing brochure that I could take to the citizens so that they will agree to increase their taxes to fund the plan. So I give you these examples to show specific situations where understanding how you include people in your equations is key to success. So regardless of whether you end up in the public sector or in the private sector, in your career, you will be faced with many challenges working with a variety of groups. You will, in the public sector, you will be working with citizens, community groups. You will be working with elected officials. You will be working with developers and a variety of business interests. And in the private sector, you will be working with your clients, with suppliers, with construction companies, employees, teaming partners. So it is very important for you to, in order to accomplish anything, to be able to work with a variety of groups. And the faster and the earlier you prepare yourself for that, the more successful you're going to be. And when we talk about people, the most important person, the most critical person that you need to think about in that equation is you. That's where it all starts. Because just as it's important for you to understand other people, you got to understand yourself first. we all will spend all of our lives trying to figure out who we are. I would argue that the people who are more likely to not be successful are the ones who believe they actually know who they are. And there's nothing they could learn about themselves. When you stop learning about who you are, that's very dangerous. But the earlier you start learning, and the more you learn about yourself, and the more you take that into consideration, and the more you actually think about where your passions are, where your strengths are, the more successful you will be, because that is the starting point. And then after you do that, you start thinking about others. In your career, you will all be leaders. Regardless of what you end up doing, you will all be leaders. You can be a leader without actually having anybody report to you, right? I mean, those of you that watch sports, you see in many occasions where a particular player, sometimes it's the player that is actually not even a starter. Sometimes they get off the bench and they join in the play, and they are the reason why the team wins the game, and we refer to that as that person actually took the leadership. They showed leadership. And so you will all be leaders. And when you become a leader, when you think about what you want to do as a leader, it's critical, of course, to think about people. I am not going to talk about leadership here a lot, because there are so many books written about leadership. There will be a lot more books written about leadership. I think it's been too much written about leadership. So I'm not going to talk about leadership. I'm going to talk about things kind of related to it. In terms of the fundamental things that exist when you are a leader, and to help you think about it for yourself, to determine what kind of leader you want to be and how you want to do it. So the first advice I will give you is do it your way. You know, like I said, there are so many books written about leadership, but you can write your own book. Just because somebody wrote a book about leadership does not make them a better leader than you can be. So think about that. Just like cooking. Just because somebody wrote a recipe doesn't mean that you can't cook it better than they can. And leadership is the same. It is something that you will do based on who you are. Because remember, I told you the first thing you want to figure out is who you are and what your strengths are. And then you want to become the type of leader that is aligned with who you are and your strengths. If you read it in a book and you try to follow what the book says about how you should be a leader, what that doesn't take into consideration is you. That type of leadership that you read about in a particular book may not be the right type of leadership that's aligned with who you are and your strengths. So if you do read books about leadership, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, keep that in mind. Don't read just one book. Read multiple books. Get different ideas. And then through all that and through your experience, then determine what kind of leader you want to be. Because you want to be the kind of leader that fits best with you, that would work best for you depending on what your strengths are. So that's my advice about leadership to you. And no matter what you do, keep in mind that you have to treat people equal. As a leader, you are never better than any of the people that you're leading. Having humility is critical. People are not going to follow somebody that they believe that person feels superior to them. They want to follow someone that They believe they truly care for them. That person truly knows them. Actually, there are three things that have to exist for somebody to follow someone and to respect someone. You have to believe that they know you. You have to believe that they actually like you. They can't like you if they don't know you. If they pretend they like you and they don't know you, that means they're really not being honest. They have to know you first, and then they have to like you, and then they have to do the kinds of things that they need to do to support you. So you as a leader need to be thinking about you doing exactly that. Of course, honesty is important. Again, as a leader, you want to be humble, and you also want to be honest. You want to have integrity. Kelsey knows at Arcadis, I have a culture that we have in infrastructure that we always talk about. It's the 3 H's. It's humor, humility, and honesty. And through those 3 behaviors, we get an environment where we have diversity and inclusion, and we have collaboration. A lot of times people talk about collaboration and don't think about the fact that collaboration is an outcome. It's not a leading indicator, it's a lagging indicator. You can't tell somebody just go collaborate if some other things are not taken care of already. You have to have trust. You have to have humility amongst the people in order for them to collaborate. So it's really the outcome of so many other things. Like, I'm watching the time. So now what I want to do now is actually show you an equation, right? Where you can include people in an equation. So think about every person having abilities. So every individual has, let's call it A for ability. And let's say that you are in charge of a group. You're responsible for a particular group of individuals, and you're looking at performance, and you're looking at maximizing the performance of that group. So you start off with a person's ability, and then you have the effort that that person makes. So you multiply the effort and the ability to come up with their performance. You know, 0 ability times a lot of effort is still 0. And a lot of ability with no effort leads to nothing. And so it's really the product of effort and ability that produces performance. But you have to support the people that work in your group. No matter how much ability they have and how much effort they make, they're not going to be as productive if you don't support them. Your support is critical. So you multiply that by S, which is the support you provide to them. So as a leader of a group, in order for you to maximize the total performance, you want to maximize the product of the individual's performance, right? But you have enough, just a finite level of support. So in order to maximize the performance, you want to allocate the support that you provide to the individuals that are giving you the highest product of E and A. That's how you maximize it. Because you just do the math. If somebody's got very little effort times very little ability, you can't take much of your support there. In order to maximize P, which is the sum of the E, A, and the S's, you've got to support the people that have a highest combination or highest product of ability and effort. Now, on top of that, I talked about collaboration. And so, if you have a lot of people that are getting support, they're putting in an effort, and they have ability, but they are not collaborating, they're not working with each other, that will have a great impact on the performance. So I add C here, and C is the coefficient of collaboration. And so C is 1, could be greater than 1 when people are collaborating. And when they're not collaborating, it's approaching 0. And so this is a way to measure performance. And it's a way to actually see how you can, in fact, include people in your equation, include their abilities and efforts, appreciate that they need your support, appreciate the value and the impact of collaboration amongst the people. I would even add one more coefficient, and that is alignment. So they're collaborating, putting in a lot of effort, they have a lot of abilities, you're supporting them, they're collaborating, but they're not really aligned with your strategy. They're doing it off, they're going off track. Maybe they're doing something very well somewhere else, but it's not aligned with what you're trying to accomplish. And so then you add alignment. So now what we have is we have a maximum performance of a team that's measured in terms of individuals' abilities, efforts, the support you provide to them, the level of collaboration that exists amongst all team members, and then how aligned they are with what you're trying to accomplish, with your culture, with your values, with your strategy. So I just wanted to give you this just as an example that you are actually, in fact, able to include people in your equation. And then finally, I just want to leave you with 3 thoughts, which are a summary of what I covered. You start with yourself. So that's my first advice to you is start with yourself and understand who you are and what your strengths are, regardless of where they may be, whether they are in technical or non-technical. That's number 1. Number 2 is include people in all of your equations. You cannot accomplish much without including people in your equations. And the third part is have fun. Because at the end, it's all about you having fun. If you're not having fun, why are you doing anything? You have to have fun. And remember that no matter how stressed you are, being stressed about something is not going to have an impact on the outcome. You could argue it could actually have a negative impact on the outcome. So I know it's hard, especially here at Tech, but don't get stressed out, okay? Don't get stressed out because it has no impact on the outcome. So thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you. I appreciate it. I want to take questions.
So you spoke about understanding people as being really important to leadership. So any suggestions on how to do that in the most effective way, especially how to understand people outside your comfort zone or familiarity?
Yeah. So you start by listening to them and understanding who they are, what their strengths are, what their concerns are, and truly, truly listening to them and beginning the process of engaging with them from that point, from where they are, not where you are. So for example, we don't do this anymore because we have Google and Waze, But it used to be when you're talking to someone and you're trying to get them to go where you are, giving them directions. The first question you ask is, where are you? Okay, what do you see around you? And you try to get them to where you are by knowing where they are. You don't say, I'm right here, this is what I see, find me. You say, where are you? What do you see? And so dealing with people, it's the same thing. You will never be successful by starting with where you are. You start with where they are, and then you start that process understanding why they are there. What's it like? What do they see in terms of their feelings and thoughts and opinions? And then you begin working with them from that perspective.
My name is Bilal. I have a quick question. I also met with the students and I mentored them as well. I have a question regarding ability and the efforts. Sometimes we met with the students and they don't have a certain ability in that area, but they have an ability to do something better in other fields as well. But I believe that, and I guide that you can make your ability with your efforts. So is it the right way? But because I felt after a while they still have the stress, but they pass through that thing. So what you suggest?
You can help. I think is your question, can you help somebody develop abilities that they don't have? Yeah. Yes, you can. By leveraging specific strengths that they have. Because people will improve in areas where they already have strength. So if you're trying to help somebody with a particular skill sets or particular ability that they don't have, you have to understand what is it that they do have in terms of strengths, and then you leverage that strength to help them get better. So it's important to think about what is this person actually good at, right? And then you help them use that particular ability to develop another ability.
My question is in regards to the equation you put on the board. You mentioned that the max performance would be, or performance would be maximized by supporting people with the most effort and ability. So what about the people that don't have that?
Yeah, so you help them develop abilities based on their strengths. You help them get motivation to produce more effort. So if somebody is not making a lot of effort, there is a reason for that. And maybe what they're doing is something that is not related to their passion. And so you have to engage with them and create the passion and motivation and inspire them to make the effort based on them doing something that they are really excited about, that they have passion for. So you could actually work with people to improve their abilities and to also improve their effort by inspiring them and motivating them.
So that would be like a separate state.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Chrisia. I have two questions. What type of leader will you be? And second, how do you came to the realization that you could be a leader? How will you develop your strengths? Because you said that you have to work on yourself. So how do you do that on you, like putting you as an example and describing how you came to that?
Yeah, so I am not as good as you are technically. I have a PhD from Georgia Tech, but I believe that you're much smarter than I am. But what I believe, one of the strengths that I have is being able to listen to people, engage with them, and be able to determine who they are and how I can, like I was saying earlier, how I can motivate them, how I can inspire them, how I can work with them. When I realized that early in my career, it really helped me a lot, because what I do, and you hear that quite a bit, it said, well, leaders best thing that they could do is hire people smarter than they are, right? And so that's what I try to do, is hire people that are much smarter than I am. Now, the key is we all want to do that, right? But how do you make that judgment, right? Everybody want to hire people smarter than they are. But some people are good at judging that and some are not. I believe that's what helped me is I pay enough attention to the individuals and listen to them and feel with them and empathize to the point where I could be more effective in improving their effort and abilities.
Dr. Selman, we are so grateful for you coming and sharing your insights and perspectives with us, and just reminding us how important humanity and passion are as we pursue our careers as engineers. And I know all of us can really use that information, and I personally will try to consider that as I pursue my career. So we're so grateful to you for coming, and we would like to present you with this gift on behalf of the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering, for sharing your experiences and your wisdom and your time with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I am Dr. Lauren Stewart, and I'm an assistant professor in structures here at Georgia Tech. And I run the CE London program, which has, I actually see quite a few familiar faces, which offers 2 structural engineering classes that fit into the minor during the summer and has a mandatory travel component to London. And last year we also went to Paris and Scotland. And I would just like to thank Dr. Selman for coming and being our distinguished speaker and sharing your passion for people with all of us. I'd also like to thank all of you for coming and giving your time. It's great that we had such a large turnout. And just a few announcements. The next Hyatt lecture will be in spring in February or March, so please look for the formal announcement. And maybe the most important announcement is that we'd like to invite you all to have an informal lunch in the lobby where you can have time to interact with Dr. Selman. So let's give Dr. Selman one last round of applause.
Thank you.